Ah, greetings, Bashar.
And to you, good day, good day. What would you like to discuss?
First, I would like to say that I'm grateful for this teachings of this day because it put more clarity of the stages to go about when something hits me, when something is confronting me. Usually, when you said a while ago, it's not what happens to you that matters, but what you do with it matters.
Yes.
This was very actually a very easy tool to adopt because when I would dive into why things happen to me, it would go into a go nowhere because I would have the blame, the pointing
Yes.
finger outside of me.
Yes.
So when you said that, that was very important. But I also want to say that it's actually easy for me
Yes.
to not to dive into the what happened when I know that it happened, but it doesn't matter what happened. It actually become easy for me to just dive in
All right.
and look at myself.
Well, it's all right. Well, good.
So
Congratulations for using it that way.
thank you. um, I like to ask you if you would like, if you don't mind to share with us, if this is, unless you said it before, but I do not know it, what events brought about the Shakana to your people at the time that it did?
Well, a couple of things. Number one, remember that we are, in a sense, an artificially engineered race. Therefore, it was kind of built in to some degree into our genetic path that would happen someday after we went through certain processes. At the same time, going through those processes gave us the opportunity to develop within ourselves the willingness to allow for more harmony and cohesion by recognizing and validating the differences in each individual. So you could say, in a sense, that we were designed with a penchant to go in that direction, although it was still left up to us as to whether or not to choose to do so, because the ability to choose to do so or not do so is of paramount importance to be engineered into any species, so that you know that whatever it is that does happen is the product of what they chose to have happen, so that they are truly in alignment with it and not just forced to make a choice. Does that answer your question?
It answered to a degree, but so it means that you were ready as a collective to become evolved into the harmony, as far as I understand, that brought about the Shakana.
Yes, we were engineered in a way that made that a very viable choice for us, but it doesn't mean that we had to choose it. It was just easier for us to do so should we go in that direction.
So was it like a committee that came about to announce to the people, this is your time to choose, or was it just
No. It was simply a natural thing that happened synchronistically. Remember that we operate on pure synchronism. So it was one of the things that when the synchronicity amplified to that point, it made it obvious that the choice was there for us.
I got you. I don't know.
Remember that the idea of Shakana was actually represented by an individual. So when that individual came about in our society, that was the synchronicity that made it obvious we were going to go in that direction.
I need to contemplate this. You're saying an individual that evolved to a certain level that brought about everybody else with him?
Yes, Shakana was actually an individual, a child that was born. It's similar to the idea of what you call the birth of your Christ or Krishna or Buddha or something like that. But for us, it accelerated us because the child was the symbol of the synchronicity that came together to indicate that we had made a collective choice to go in the direction that we have gone and experience more synchronism and harmony in our reality. So it actually was predicated by the existence of an actual physical child being born in our society that was recognized as the Shakana vibration.
This is magnificent.
In that moment, in the span of what you would call 3 days, we all became telepathically wakened.
This is magnificent. Is it going to happen on Earth as well?
Not quite in the same way. Not quite in the same way, no. It'll happen more on an individual, one-by-one basis, or a collective here, a collective there. Eventually, you'll come into pure synchronism and more telepathic understanding, but it's going to happen a little bit differently for Earth humans because your evolutionary path is different.
I understand. Um, in this, when a Sasani couple decide to have a child, I was reading in the book that you described that they go into a focus, a deep meditation, and they create their own bands, and then the two bands combine to create a third band, and that's where the child is created. So
Yes, it's like two energy bubbles that overlap, and in the overlap, the child forms itself.
So was it a long period? I mean, would the parents stay in that meditative state until the child is created and born and materialized?
Yes, but it doesn't take that long. Now remember, this is something that's relatively recent in our history. We used to have children in exactly the same way that you do now. But as we evolved and became less physical, it started to take on this energy form. But it doesn't take that long.
Like in 3 days, in 5 days,
It can take hours. The longest on record has been about 3 days, but it usually only takes several hours.
This is fascinating. This is very fascinating, and I'm so grateful to get such an information because it's broadened me and so many others who read this the possibilities of existence of such an existence. And
Yes.
so when a child is born to your civilization, would the soul need to be in a certain level of evolution to become one of you because you're so much advanced then?
Generally speaking, yes. There are some exceptions depending on what the soul wishes to experience, but generally speaking, yes, because there are certain experiences that are simply not available in our society that might be available in other societies. So the soul would have to be at least in alignment with the general themes of our planet and wouldn't necessarily be born on our planet or choose to be born on our planet if it had a theme that was not available to it in our society.
I understand. Um, One more thing about your civilization is you also in the book I was reading that your cities are in spaceship, so you're not contaminating or destroying the earth, the
Yes.
ground itself. Does that mean that there's no dwelling at all?
There are temporary ones for a variety of purposes, like we described the idea that we may have what you call birthing villages that are erected and that function as a place for people to have children for a while, but then they're disassembled. Usually there are no permanent structures, except for a few exceptions that we can go into at another time, but they're few and far between. Most of the planet is natural. And any structures that are built for temporary reasons and then disassembled.
I got you. So I like to move on to the blue man that you mentioned to us in the last transaction.
Yes.
The name Blue Man is English, so do they have name in their language, even though they're telepathic and they don't speak?
There are members of their society that are physical, but remember that the versions that Earth is interacting with are those that have allowed themselves to shift and become both physicalized and also exist as energy forms. So their own societies, they have their own way of referring to themselves, but we're not really allowed to talk about that at this particular point. What we have shared with you is all we can share with you at this point about them.
I understand it. So I would like still to stay with it, not about their information, but when you said, again, in one of the questions you answered, that we have to align ourselves with the same frequency as they are in order for us to, let's say I want to have the calmness that they have, and I
Yeah.
need it at the time. So to become their frequency, this is something that I understand, but I really don't understand. Like there is times that I will focus very lightly, almost no matter about something, and it manifests for me so easily, or I'm tuning into it so easily.
Because you have a belief system that says it's easy for you to match that frequency, and in other things you have a belief system that says it's not as easy to match that frequency. So some things are going to appear effortless because you have a belief that allows you to allow it to be experienced in an effortless way. You just shift. Nothing is getting in your way. In other areas, there may be things you need to deal with and let go of before you can shift to that frequency. Everyone on your planet has these differences. Some things are easy and some things are challenging.
So matching my frequency would mean focusing on them, focusing on a blue blob. How would I
It's up to you to use your imagination and receive from your higher mind what works best for you as a technique. But again, remember, in general, it still all comes down to following the formula. That's all you actually have to do. Everything else that's relevant will take care of itself and bring you the inspiration and opportunities to do it in the way that works for you most effortlessly. That's why we give you the formula. Then you don't have to break it down into what's the technique for this? What's the technique for that? Just follow the formula. The technique that will work for you will come to you synchronistically.
Sometimes, at this time, this is a very unique time right now on Earth.
Yes.
Because sometimes I feel the time is so slow, and sometimes I feel the time is so fast, and it comes and
Yeah.
goes throughout the days and the weeks and the
Of
and
course.
the hours.
Because you're creating time. So as you change your consciousness, your perception of time is going to change, because time is a side effect of your consciousness, shifting through different parallel realities. So its pace is completely determined by where your consciousness is focused.
There are times that, like when you're saying, follow your passion, follow your excitement. There are many times at this current time, presently, that it looks so stretchy.
Yes.
Takes long time.
Sometimes that's exactly the time that it needs to take, but you always have the opportunity to investigate your belief systems to see if you can let go of some of them, and letting go of some of them may change the way you experience the timing. You can always narrow it down to just the process you actually need to go through. Sometimes you have extra processes that you don't necessarily need to go through if you will let go of certain beliefs. But it's always only going to go down to whatever the timing is that's absolutely necessary for you to experience in order to more deeply appreciate what it is you are experiencing.
I understand. Well, I thank you so much, Bashar. I love you. I appreciate so much our exchange.
As do we, and our unconditional love to you as well. Good day.
Good day.